webinar. As I said earlier, my name is CSR, and I'm the Director of Programs at Discover E. And I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping items before I turn it over to our esteemed panel this afternoon. Today, we're going to hear from 3 industry leaders about their volunteer experience and how it's impacted their engineering careers. And there is time in today's session for you all to be asking of our panelists. So if you have any questions, you can type them to our question box on your dashboard. And at the end of today's session, we'll be announcing the 2016 New Faces of Engineering, both Pro and College Edition honorees. So if anyone is not familiar with Discover E, Discover E is dedicated to strengthening and growing the engineering profession through outreach, education, celebration, and volunteerism. And we support a network of thousands of volunteers and our coalition of 100 different professional societies, companies, government agencies with programs such as Engineers Week, Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day, Future City, and of course our New Faces of Engineering Recognition Program. So with that, I will hand over today's session to Dale Jans. He's our MC for today, and have him introduce himself and our other guests. Welcome, Dale.
Thank you, Thea. I appreciate that, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar today. My name is Dale Jans, and I'm the Vice President of Jans Corporation. I'm also the past president of NCEES, which is the National Council of Examiners for Engineering and Surveying. I received my civil engineering degree from South Dakota State University and went to work in the construction industry after that. After obtaining my professional engineer's license, I started my own design-build construction firm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My son is currently the president of Jans Corporation, and I serve as the vice president. With me today are 2 additional panelists, Danielle Couger, Senior Research Engineer, Corporate Engineering, Technology and Operations at Lockheed Martin, and Conrad Ball, Chief Engineer at Boeing's Engineering Central Initiative. Beginning with Danny, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves and begin by answering our first question, which is, please describe a volunteer experience and explain how it boosted your career. So with that, Danny, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dale. So first of all, like Dale said, my name is Danielle Couger, and I work at Lockheed Martin at our corporate headquarters. And I graduated with my undergrad in computer science and math, following that up with a master's degree in system engineering. My first degree is from West Texas A&M, and my master's is from the George Washington University here in DC. I'm currently working in our chief scientist office, and the breadth of degrees I just told you serves very well to my current supporting role of the chief scientist here. What I do is I support high-risk, high-profile research projects all over the world, focusing on technologies that are 15 to 50 years in the future. And these basically span everywhere from quantum computing all the way to hypersonics to highly portable power systems and things that really are going to help our warfighter in the future. It's a really, really awesome job. I get to travel quite a bit internationally and work with a lot of our partners across the world, trying to boost technologies that quite aren't ready for commercialization today, but will be in the future. So to ask the first question of describing a volunteer experience that has really boosted my career, in college I was a huge Habitat for Humanity goer. And if you're not familiar with Habitat for Humanity, basically they build houses for local communities and local people who are deserving of those houses. And I spent well over 100 hours throughout my 4 years in college in undergrad helping this cause. And what it really did is gave me an opportunity to not just work with a lot of different people, but also it gave me one of my first leadership opportunities. The great thing about volunteering is that passion is really the only experience you need on your resume in order to make a difference. And I was very passionate about the project. I was very committed and loyal to this, and so they decided to give me a lot of really, really awesome opportunities. And what this did was put a lot of things on my resume that made me even more ready to go into industry after college, to include being able to work with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. As an engineer, one of the things that will drive your career is being able to understand BD, finance, and all different things that are outside of your little engineering wedge. There's a lot more things than just the technology that makes something successful. And that was a skill that I think to this day started with my volunteer work. And so it's been a really cool opportunity to be able to see, as I continue to volunteer for a lot of different organizations, that those skills are things I can build outside of the office. And so I think we're going to move on to our next panelist, Conrad.
Thanks, Danny. This is Conrad Ball with Boeing. I'm calling in from Seattle. So I've been at Boeing 26 years. I had 7 years of professional experience before that, contracting to the United States Air Force at Wright-Patterson in Dayton, Ohio. My academic background is engineering physics, EE, and semiconductor physics specifically. At Boeing, however, I've had the opportunity to work in like Danny, in a very wide range of technical domains, from heavy mechanical structural systems, advanced networks and simulations. Spent a significant amount of time in our commercial aircraft unit, helicopters, fighters. Very proud of the work that we did on International Space Station, and also very involved with a number of advanced surveillance platforms that are out in service today. In my current role, I lead an enterprise-wide effort at Boeing responsible for ensuring and fostering, enabling the continuous technical development of our engineering technical workforce, numbering on the order of 60,000 engineers and technologists around the world. So also like Danny, I really enjoy the diversity of experiences, the depth of the technical challenges, and getting to work with people from a lot of different cultures and appreciating their perspectives on the very challenging things that we take on. As for my volunteer experience, from a number of years, I've been very involved with FIRST Robotics, from coaching a team, a high school team, to later starting a nonprofit to help foster the program in Washington State. We've got 11,000 kids involved with the program now in Washington, and I've become very active at the national level as we work to support and promote the sustainable expansion of the program. You know, I've found that my volunteerism with FIRST, not only does it align very well with my personal passions and working with students, working in the community, but it very much aligns with our corporate objectives. You know, Boeing's a huge supporter of employee volunteerism. You know, as a volunteer, I've had the chance to take on roles, take on experiences that perhaps I wouldn't have been exposed to in my day job, developing new skills and finding my strengths, finding the things that I'm not terribly interested in, but that directly translates back to my professional assignments and helps broaden the tool set that I have, that I bring to bear. In fact, you know, in my experience, fostering both as my own, you know, as a volunteer, but then also fostering the volunteerism of a lot of Boeing engineers, it's very clear to me that volunteering doesn't only benefit the recipient, the students that we support, but there's a profound impact on the volunteer themselves, expanding skills, but sharpening the professional skills that we have today while we make a very positive impact in our communities. Dale, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, thanks, Conrad. It's kind of difficult for me to single out just one volunteer opportunity that has boosted my career, because over the years, some of the smaller, more minor activities I volunteered for have become very important in my life. As a student in civil engineering at South Dakota State University, I volunteered and became active in the student chapter of ASCE. That led me to become involved in the local ASCE chapter after I graduated. From there, I volunteered in the local chapter of NSPE, and through that, I was appointed by the governor of South Dakota to serve on the Board of Technical Professions, which is the state licensing board. Because of that, I volunteered my time with NCEES and eventually became the president of that national organization. They're the ones responsible for preparing and administering exams for anyone wanting to be licensed as an engineer or a surveyor. So you never know where volunteerism might lead, especially when you start at a young age. So I'd encourage you, the earlier you start, the better. In addition to volunteering for technical and professional societies, I think it's very important to volunteer for civic organizations and service clubs. I serve on several nonprofit boards such as Goodwill Industries and the Better Business Bureau. I volunteer and have been active in a service club that has an emphasis on speech and hearing. In fact, we do hearing testing for grade school children that we volunteer our time to do. I've been able to provide my education and experience in helping develop facilities for people that are less fortunate. Another group that I volunteer for has allowed me to take my grandson on a mission trip to Guatemala to distribute wheelchairs. Not only do you receive a great amount of personal satisfaction from volunteering, but the opportunities to network with other like-minded individuals can create tremendous job opportunities. You not only can increase your professional and technical skills, you also develop leadership skills that will benefit you with team building and provide you with opportunities to develop public speaking skills as well. There are so many things that volunteering can do to help you in your career. I encourage everyone to find something they are passionate about and to get involved. So with that, I think we'll address our second question. That is, volunteerism is a great way to develop your skill set. What was one skill in particular that you learned while volunteering, and how was it applicable to your engineering career? Danny, I'll turn that over to you.
Thanks, Dale. So like the rest of my panelists, we have a lot of different volunteering experiences, and I've volunteered for a lot of different organizations, but I'm going to stick with Habitat for Humanity because it offers a really nice comparison. Building a house is a really great example of a full project life cycle. And during college, you're really focused on your degree, and then when you move into your first job, usually you're an individual contributor, and so you're very, very focused on your one swim lane. And for me, that was software. I did a lot of coding right out of college, and so you're very focused just on that swim lane, and you tend to have a hard time looking outside of that. And so what I really gained from Habitat for Humanity was building a house. There's a lot of different aspects to that. There's the design of the house, there's the actual execution, there's making sure that your stakeholder, the person you're building the house for, is a part of that process, and then also just testing everything, making sure that the lights work, and you have all the different verification and validation of that house, the inspectors and things like that. And that was really something I drew on as I became an individual contributor, a software engineer. I realized that I was just one peg in the wheel of making a project successful, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks. But it is really important to have that experience, and I found that in volunteering. I found the ability to really work with my design team and really work with the execution team, and making sure that I was, meeting with, the people we were building a house for, to make sure this is, what they wanted. And so as an early on software engineer, and one of the reasons why I got my master's in system engineering was being able to integrate all those different aspects of a project, understanding that it's really important that you see the project through your customer's eyes, and you understand, the verification and validations team's perspective on the requirement you're working on. So volunteering really gave me an idea of how to work outside of my swim lane, and how to be a better engineer, whole engineer, if you will, than just the software I was working on, or just the things I was testing, if you will. So, I really encourage volunteering for a myriad of different reasons. Like my other panelist says, it gives you a lot of satisfaction. It gives you a place to, have passion in something. But for an engineer, that one skill of being able to understand a life cycle beyond just the software part of it really has been beneficial, and it's been able to promote my current role, which is really seeing how one technology in the future can help a myriad of different people, and how there's so many different things that have to be done in order to make those technologies happen. So I'll go ahead and pass it off to Conrad.
Thanks, Danny. You're tough to follow up, I have to say. For my experience, the one skill, and again, I've gotten so much out of all the different volunteering that I've done, but I found that when we volunteer, not only do we learn new skills, but we sharpen our current skills. And I think the one thing I would focus on is, as a volunteer, I've definitely improved my ability to communicate. And what I mean by that is really to practice more of putting myself in the frame of the audience that I'm trying to communicate with, and adapting my language and communication style to ensure that they're understanding the concepts that I'm trying to share, and I'm thinking about first, and teaching a variety of technical skills to not just students, but the adult mentors and volunteers and coaches in our community that might not have the background that we have as engineers at Boeing. You know, it occurs to me, as engineers, we can get used to communicating with our peers and colleagues, many of whom have the same sort of technical, educational background and experiences. And sometimes we believe that our colleagues and peers actually understand what we're trying to say. When you're working with students and other volunteers from different segments of our communities, it causes us to really reflect on the clarity and the structure of, you know, how we're communicating, realizing that they might be listening or tuned in a different way. And so it puts the onus on me, on us, to first know the content very deeply, more deeply than perhaps just a practitioner would have, but then to articulate those concepts in a way, in terms and language that they can use and they can move forward with. And so that sense of how do you connect with very diverse populations and learn and benefit from them, these are skills that I take back, and I'm a lot to my professional context, and I think a lot more now about, you know, don't just assume everybody understands what we're saying because we're all engineers, but take the time to understand their frame of reference and articulate the concepts to be sure that they are really sinking in and that you're benefiting from their insight as well. So Dale, I think I'll hand it back to you then.
All right. Thank you, Conrad. Very well said. I'm kind of sensing a little bit of a theme here with what the panelists are saying, because, you know, from my perspective, I'd have to say one of the best skills that I've been able to develop is teamwork. Everyone's there when you volunteer. You're there for the same reason. You're all trying to achieve the same goal as volunteers, and that may not always be the case in your work experience. People you work with may have different agendas, so it's extremely important skill set to have, you know, when you have the ability to work with other people as a team. You have to be a good communicator. You have to make sure everyone is on the same page. Through that teamwork experience, you can really develop your skills working with people that may not be in your typical circle of associates. By working with people outside of your normal sphere of influence, you have the ability to really strengthen your leadership skills. So I think that's probably something that I have really valued through my volunteer experiences. With that, Thea, I'll turn it back to you.
Sure, thanks everyone. What a fascinating conversation. I've enjoyed listening to you all. And now if there's any questions from our audience, you can type them into the question box and let us know if you want to ask Conrad or Dale or Danny any question in particular. Let me know. And while we're waiting for that, I have a question, and I'd love to know, what is one specific piece of advice you'd give about finding the right volunteer opportunity to boost your career?
This is Dale. I'll just jump in, and then the other two panelists can certainly, enlarge on that a little bit. I think the first thing you need to do is find something that you enjoy. You know, something that you see a benefit and some value to. You know, I'll admit I've been involved in some organizations that I really just didn't see that there was an end game there, that I really didn't see value in what was being accomplished. So I think that's important, is to find something that you enjoy, that you really appreciate doing, and that you see some value, that you see some benefit when you're done. So any other comments?
This is Conrad, and I second everything you've said, Dale, but a couple of thoughts. I mean, one, I like the idea of be purposeful. Make sure that you're passionate about the objectives, the goals of the organization, so that you can really, bring your whole game there. Be thoughtful about the developmental opportunity for yourself, and take the opportunity to stretch and learn and grow. It's not just a altruistic thing you're doing, but there's a developmental context to volunteerism. So, Danny, do you have any comment?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with both you guys. I think my only piece of advice is find a buddy to do it with. Things are not just because you don't want to go meet new people, but also, that person keeps you accountable, and it's someone to get a ride with or whatever. It's really important to do things with other people, and it's also bringing somebody into your passion, and being able to share that with someone else. So bring a buddy. Things are always better if you got somebody else next to you going through the same things you are. So
I guess I like that, Danny, but I'd add, this is Conrad again, one other thought for people considering volunteerism, whether early in their careers or later in their career. And this might sound a little bit odd, but don't be too careful. Don't be afraid to get your feet wet. Go try it out. That's a great thing about volunteering. You can go off and try something that you're not familiar with. And if you don't find that it's resonating with you, if it's not a place where you're thinking you're growing, you're adding value, that's okay. Try something else. But don't wait so long that good opportunities go by.
We have lots of questions that are coming in. Leon has asked, do you have any situations where you're faced with conflict, and how did you handle that?
This is Danny. I used to pick up trash on the side of the highway. We had an area of road in West Texas that our College of Engineering department I guess sponsored, and you find that those kinds of opportunities definitely have a myriad of different pasts of different people there, and as a young person, you need to make sure you're realizing that everyone around you may be older than you, and it's just really important for you to, what I like to call, is lead up. Make sure that you're respecting the people you're trying to lead. You might turn around and realize no one's following you. So just really try to respect all the people around you, because you don't know their past, you don't know their background, and just trying to make it more of a team. Even though you might be a leader or you might be in a more of a facilitator role, just really important to respect everyone and understand everyone has a different background, different past, or reasons why they're there. Some people aren't volunteering because they want to, it's because they have to. So just really try to respect everyone.
This is Conrad. Great. I can tell you that when I talk about volunteerism as a place to learn, I had the experience of in First on sitting on the board of our nonprofit, having to engage with another board member and ultimately ask them to leave the board because their objectives were not well aligned with the consensus objectives of the rest of the board. But that experience alone taught me a great deal about leadership and how to really be clear about our goals and how to effectively communicate. And so conflict happens in every human endeavor, right? But just, again, volunteerism provides another context for us to practice that and sharpen our skills.
Nice. We have another question. This is for any of the panelists. How do you find the appropriate balance between volunteering, your home life, and your work life? That age-old work-life balance with a little bit of volunteerism thrown in.
Well, I think this is Dale. I think that is really a challenge, and especially in society today, everybody has so many other activities and so many things going on that it is difficult to find that balance. And certainly you need to put your time in at work. There isn't any way you can shortchange that, and you don't want to do that to your family either. But I think you just need to set some time aside and say, this is time that I'm going to commit to being a volunteer, that I'm going to do something else. And sometimes maybe you give up something that might appear to be a little bit more fun, but what you're doing in that process, you're not only growing yourself as a person, you're getting a lot of personal satisfaction from helping somebody else that maybe isn't as fortunate as you are.
This is Conrad. I'd suggest that, I hear this a lot, this construct of work-life balance, and I've found, and while I don't think, I wouldn't claim to have gotten it right, I think about a work-life blend. My volunteerism is very much part of who I am, and to the extent that I can, I include my family. I mean, they know that I'm passionate about this, and happily, my volunteerism, the area that I work in First, is well aligned to my professional objectives in developing our workforce. And so, finding things that are important to you, and don't draw, as Dale said, sometimes you have to just buckle down and get the work done. but how you spend the rest of your time, make sure it's kind of hitting more than one button at a time is kind of my strategy.
I think, Conrad, that's great, because this is kind of a follow-up question. Does your volunteer work have to be related to your career in order to advance your career?
This is Danny. I don't think so. I think it's really nice to have things that aren't like your work. That can be really refreshing. You know, I've in the past coached a lot of different athletic teams. I was a college athlete, and I thought that is one of the things that being able to really make a connection like that in a sports related way really makes a difference, again, to teamwork and leadership. I mean, a lot of the skills that you get out of volunteering aren't necessarily technical skills. As an engineer, I can't think of, besides from more of a system engineering perspective, besides for doing things like a code academy or something like that, which I've done in the past as well, is important. But I think if you're passionate about it, then you should be doing it. That, lending to your last question about work-life balance, being passionate about something makes you want to go do it. So if you want to balance your life, make sure it's something you're passionate about, or you won't do it, or you won't make the time for it. And you need to do that, you know, for that community as well, to respect that their time, that they're allowing you to volunteer for them.
And I think, as you know, as Conrad said, you can really, in a lot of cases, blend the two together. I mentioned earlier that I had taken my grandson on a mission trip to Guatemala. I have 11 grandkids, and he's the oldest one. He's the first one that gets to do that. My intent is to take each one of them on some kind of a similar trip. And so it's not only a wonderful bonding experience for us to do that together, but it also kind of sets them on the right path of what they should be looking at as they get older.
All right, I have one more question. One more question, I think, before we move into the announcing the honorees. But this one comes from Sarah, and she wants to know, how often do you volunteer? Would you recommend committing 1, 2, or 4 hours a week? What has worked well for you?
This is Danny. I'll go first. I mean, I think there's ebbs and flows with everything you do. Obviously, depending on the opportunity. Right now, I probably volunteer about 4 hours a week because I'm doing a project Lead the Way classroom here at a local high school in Bethesda, Maryland. And that's actually going in the classroom and working with young engineering students and things like that. So it really just depends. But, you know, overall, I think the grouping of activities that you do, you know, like Dale mentioned, goes to, you know, these trips, which can be a lot of different hours. So I think try to do as many as you can, as often as you can. But right now, I probably do about 4 hours a week of volunteering.
And actually, there's one more question I want to squeak in. And it was, has there ever been a situation in which your volunteer work was discouraged by your supervisor? And if so, how did you handle it?
I've not had that experience, so it's hard for me to speak to that. You know, if I don't know, Danny or Dale, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think I would agree. I don't recall any time that someone has discouraged me from not spending time to do that. I think most people in leadership positions see the benefit of that. And, you know, I certainly encourage all my employees to volunteer their time, even on occasion if it means taking some time off work to do things. A friend of mine that has his own business encourages his people to go on mission trips. He pays for half of their expenses to do that. So, you know, I think most people recognize the value of what that does to volunteer. And so I really haven't found that to be much of a stumbling block for people.
Yeah, this is Danny. I think from a leadership perspective, none of my leaders have ever, you know, mentioned anything. But from a peer perspective, you know, you can have friends that either don't volunteer, never have, or don't understand what you do. I took some time off actually recently, used my own vacation to do a volunteer opportunity. And someone said often, why would you do that? Why would you spend vacation to do that? Well, then they've clearly never volunteered before, because one experience, you'll understand that it's such an incredible opportunity to be able to do that and go and volunteer. And so I would say I've had discouragement from my peers, but those aren't the kind of people that I am worried about, really. And honestly, if they ever did go and volunteer, they'd completely understand why I would take vacation to do something like that. So.
Hey, wow, great. Well, I think it's time to announce this year's honorees. Dale, do you want to take it away?
Certainly, I'll be glad to do that. Each year, Discovery recognizes and celebrates young engineering students and young engineering professionals through our New Faces of Engineering Award. At the end of this webinar, we'll announce the honorees for the 2016 New Faces of Engineering, both college and professional edition. The college edition, which is sponsored by NCEES, recognizes the best and brightest third, fourth, and fifth year engineering students whose academic successes and experiences in the engineering field have made an impact. The professional edition recognizes outstanding talents, skills, and abilities that our next generation of engineering leaders ages 30 or younger have shown on projects that significantly impact public welfare or further professional development and growth. So with no further ado, we'll announce the honorees for the New Faces, the professional edition. The first one is Gus Bayshert, nominated by the National Society of Professional Engineers. Next is Ann Dare, PhD, EIT, from the American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers. Toby Dean, PE, from the Society of Petroleum Engineers. Bryony DuPont, PhD, from ASME. Rose Fajee, PhD, from IEEE USA. Darvin Griffin, PhD, from the National Society of Black Engineers. Rajun Jha, from his MS, EIT, AMASCE, nominated by the American Society of Civil Engineers. Tasha Kamegai Karadai, nominated by the Society of Women Engineers. Bridget Osborne, PE, nominated by the American Council of Engineering Companies. Amrika Ramjuan, nominated by the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers. Rachel Romero, PE, nominated by the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers. Kylie Seawright, nominated by the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Next, we'll move into the New Faces of the College Edition. Alyssa Deerdorf, nominated by the Society of Women Engineers. Sarah McIntyre, nominated by the American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers. Robinson Marilot, nominated by the National Society of Professional Engineers. Stephen Mezzacappa, nominated by the American Society of Civil Engineers. Joseph Min, nominated by the Chinese Institute of Engineers, USA. Brooke Neufeld, nominated by IEEE USA. Danielle Pasquale from ASHRA ASHRAE. Caitlin Pinnock, nominated by the National Organization of Gay and Lesbian Scientists and Technical Professionals. Yazeli Cruz Rivera, nominated by the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. Harsh Sahuni, Society of Petroleum Engineers. Jacob Steinmetz from ASME. Shaquille Tensley, National Society of Black Engineers. And Ulysses Valdovinos, National Action Council for Minorities and Engineers. So congratulations to all of our honorees.
All right. Thank you, Dale. Thank you, Conrad. And thank you to all of our wonderful panelists today. Danielle, sorry about that. I blanked your name for a second. I want to thank everyone for helping us make this year's New Faces of Engineering a wonderful year. And congratulations. And if anyone wants to learn more about Discovery and our other programs, please visit us at discovery.org. And all of our winners and honorees will be posted to discovery.org/awards. You can go there now and see your profiles. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.